Thomas Aquinas was born in 1225 in Roccasecca, a small town in the Kingdom of Sicily, now Italy. He was born into a noble family. His father was Landulf of Aquino, a count, and his mother, Theodora, came from another noble lineage. Despite his aristocratic background, Thomas was drawn early to a life of spiritual and intellectual pursuits. His family initially intended for him to pursue a career in politics or the military, typical paths for someone of noble birth. However, Thomas displayed an extraordinary aptitude for learning and a deep spiritual inclination from a young age. Education and early religious life. At the age of 5, Thomas was sent to the Benedictine monastery at Monte Cassino to receive his initial education. There, he was exposed to the rigorous study of Latin, theology, and the scriptures. His intellectual abilities quickly became evident, and he developed a strong interest in the writings of the Church Fathers. At the age of 14, he was sent to study at the University of Naples, one of the leading centers of learning at the time. Here, he encountered the teachings of Aristotle, which would profoundly influence his later work. During this period, Thomas faced opposition from his family when he chose to join the Dominican order in 1244, a mendicant order devoted to preaching, teaching, and poverty. His family, particularly his brothers, were vehemently against this decision, even going so far as to kidnap him and attempt to force him to abandon the order. According to tradition, Thomas endured these trials with patience and humility, ultimately persuading his family of the righteousness of his choice. Advanced studies in theology. After joining the Dominicans, Thomas continued his studies at the University of Paris, one of the most prestigious universities of the medieval world. There, he studied under Albertus Magnus, a renowned scholar and philosopher. Albertus became a mentor to Thomas and greatly influenced his intellectual development. Under Albertus's guidance, Thomas studied Aristotle extensively, learning to reconcile Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology, a monumental achievement in medieval thought. Thomas later continued his studies in Cologne, Germany, and then returned to Paris to begin teaching theology. His ability to integrate faith and reason distinguished him from many of his contemporaries. He believed that human reason and divine revelation were not in conflict but could complement each other, a principle that became the foundation of scholasticism, the dominant method of theological inquiry during the Middle Ages. Major works and contributions. Thomas Aquinas is best known for his monumental works that synthesized philosophy and theology. His most famous work, the Summa Theologica, remains one of the greatest achievements in Christian thought. The Summa systematically explores the existence of God, the nature of human beings, ethics, law, and salvation, presenting complex ideas in a structured and accessible manner. Another important work is the Summa contra Gentiles, written primarily to explain and defend Christian doctrine against non-Christians, especially Muslims and Jews. Aquinas also wrote numerous commentaries on Aristotle's works, demonstrating his mastery of classical philosophy and its integration with Christian doctrine. His writings cover a vast range of topics, including metaphysics, ethics, natural law, and political theory. One of his most influential contributions is the 5 Ways, Philosophical Arguments for the Existence of God, which continue to be studied in theology and philosophy courses worldwide. Philosophy and theology. Aquinas' philosophy is characterized by its rational approach to theology. He argued that reason could lead to truths about God and morality, though some truths, such as the mysteries of the Trinity, could only be known through divine revelation. His concept of natural law emphasized that human beings could understand moral principles through reason and that these principles were consistent with God's eternal law. This idea profoundly influenced the development of Western ethical and legal thought. Aquinas also made significant contributions to the understanding of virtue ethics. Drawing from Aristotle, he taught that virtues both moral and intellectual were habits that guided humans toward their ultimate end, which is union with God. His approach sought to harmonize faith, reason, and human experience, making his work both intellectually rigorous and spiritually meaningful. Later life and death. Despite his prolific writing and teaching, Thomas Aquinas' life was marked by humility and devotion. He often suffered from poor health, including digestive problems, which made his scholarly work physically challenging. In 1274, while traveling to the Council of Lyon, Thomas fell seriously ill. He died on March 7, 1274, at the Cistercian Abbey of Fossanova. At the time of his death, he reportedly remarked that all he had written seemed like straw compared to the visions of God he had experienced. Legacy and canonization. Thomas Aquinas' influence on Christian thought is unparalleled. He was canonized as a saint by Pope John XXII in 1323 and declared a Doctor of the Church, a title given to those whose writings significantly shaped Catholic theology. His ideas became central to Catholic education and philosophy, and his works are still studied in seminaries, universities, and philosophical circles worldwide. The intellectual framework he developed helped shape Western philosophy and theology for centuries, and his teachings on faith, reason, and ethics continue to inspire scholars, clergy, and lay people alike. In summary, Thomas Aquinas was a remarkable scholar, theologian, and philosopher whose life combined rigorous intellectual pursuit with deep spiritual devotion. From his early education at Monte Cassino to his influential writings and lasting legacy, Aquinas exemplified the integration of reason and faith, leaving an enduring mark on both the Church and the broader history of Western thought.